Satnam and welcome. Today I want to just give you a brief introduction of the Kriya that we're working with this month, which is the foundation for infinity. And this particular Kriya is one of, again, my top favorites. It is such a powerful Kriya to really stabilize yourself so that you can really open to life. It's really the theme of this Kriya throughout. And at the physical level, this Kriya really helps stabilize the pelvis, which is the foundation of your body system to be able to walk on the earth in balance. And at the same time, it organizes your body system anatomically to be able to be in balance and really activate kind of like the natural alignment that happens between your head and your heart. It at the psyche level, because of that inner alignment that happens at the physical level, it also has an effect mentally. So when we're aligned, when we feel connected, when we feel that we have support, we actually can shift out of the survival brain and the reactive kind of patterns and habits into new possibilities. And I find that this Kriya really helps stabilize that part of me that needs to be more anchored and more grounded. So it's a very deeply grounding Kriya that then allows you to expand, because that's ultimately how we were designed. We were designed, our anatomy, our human anatomy, our embodied wisdom, which is what I like to call it, is really designed to help us be rooted in our physical self in a place where we can really be grounded from the inside out. So we're stable from the core, and then we can turn out towards life, towards everything that is showing up from that stability, rather than the other way around, where we gain our stability from what's happening outside of us. So this particular Kriya is very powerful for that, and in these times of great and deep levels of disruption, a Kriya like this can be really deep medicine. So I encourage you to explore it, practice with it, and really just claim this Kriya as a Kriya to be able to practice and develop that inner core, inner stability. So what I want to do with this video is to actually walk you through some aspects of how I want to invite you to experience the Kriya, which I find particularly supportive. And then you can jump on the video that just gives you the practice itself, so that you can just jump in and dive into the Kriya and make it work for you. So the first thing I want to say is that I personally find that the practice of Kundalini Yoga is incredibly powerful and profoundly deepening. And one of the aspects that I find really important in the practice is this concept of divine alignment. Everything in our practice is always working with this concept of divine alignment, and that is that our spine is the aspect of the yogi, which again, yoga is the union between the infinite and the finite self. So in practical terms, my physicality, my physical nature is one aspect of who I am. And then my expansive nature, the spiritual nature, is another aspect of who I am. And neither one is separate from who I am as a whole. So yoga as a practice ultimately seeks to give us the relationship between these two aspects so that we can live in the totality of who we are, rather than being caught in this either or. I'm either spiritual or I'm physical, and I can't be both. And that somehow the physical reality negates the spiritual reality, and back and forth. So with that in mind, this concept of divine alignment is the concept where we are always in earth and expand into heaven, right? So we are planted in the ground, rooted in our sit bones, which is our rooting. So we're grounded into the floor, which then supports the expansion of ourselves. And we do that in every posture. So I really want to kind of walk you through this particular Kriya from that framework, and just know that I use it for everything. And that is really what informs my practice, that I find really deepens me into myself, and that gives me access to the greater resources that I have as a human being. So this concept of rootedness shows up when I'm seated, right? And especially in these movements that we're going to be doing, you really get to practice the anchoring aspect of the groundedness, and also the supportive aspect that in order for you to expand, you must be grounded and rooted. So the first movement is pretty simple. Interlacing fingers behind the neck, under the hairline. So if you have any hair, long hair exposed, just bring the hands under so that you're touching the neck. Your elbows are nice and open, and this can only happen when you're rooted and seated into your sit bones. So if I'm kind of collapsed back, right? So if I'm sitting off my sit bones, I'm automatically, my head is forward, my elbows want to come in. So the minute I open my elbows, I must be seated into my sit bones. Now, if you have any injuries or any issues, just allow yourself to keep whatever option is available so that you can keep the chest, keep the heart open, the chin at a right angle, and those elbows open. And we're just going to be doing inhaling left, exhaling right. So we're moving from the power of the navel. Yet what I want you to just explore right now as you close your eyes and do this movement with me is that you're actually engaging the movement from the action of the navel supported through the sit bones. So I'm actually generating the movement as my sit bones plant firmly into the floor to support the movement, right? So in a way, it's my rootedness that supports the action that I take. So explore that a little bit. And we're going to take that same theory into the next movement. So the next movement is a modified yoga mudra doing breath of fire. So typical yoga mudra, you're interlacing fingers behind your back. And remember, you're always applying neck lock, right? So you're always opening the channels of the spine from the base to the top of the head. And neck lock, again, is just the chin slightly inward, keeping the chin at a right angle to the body so that you can keep the head above the heart, above the hips. So what happens if I let go of my neck lock, I automatically, usually my head is the heaviest part of my body, so my head is going to swing me back, and I'm going to cut off the flow of energy to the top of my head. So I want to keep that channel of energy, this divine alignment, open so that it can inform my full movement. So yoga mudra, interlacing fingers behind the back, chin at a right angle. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be moving from bowing, lifting the arms up as high as you can go, to coming back to the starting position. So a couple of things I want to invite you to become aware of through this movement. The first thing I want to invite you to is anchor yourself into your foundation. So bringing your feet under your knees will support your knees better, and it will give you the framework from which you are actually moving from. So rather than leaning in, leading with the head, which then collapses the back, we're wanting to lead with the heart. So we're extending forward, and that movement can only happen when you're grounded. So I am actually using the rootedness of my sit bones and my framework to allow me to extend and use my base as the power that informs the movement, lifting my arms up as high as they will go, And then as I come up, I'm pressing down with my base to move me back up, as opposed to moving from the lower back, which can then cause pain and give you problems. So it becomes something that is much more grounded, much more powerful, and you're doing breath of fire, just finding a nice rhythmic flow between the two postures. So it would look something like this. And if you do it slower, it's okay. I'm just moving and I'm using my groundedness, my rootedness to activate the movement and allow me to extend forward, because I cannot extend forward. So the reason I would want to kind of lead with my head is so that I can stay firm on the ground. And that's then gets me out of my stability. So it's really finding that kind of experience where I'm really rooted and claiming my space, and then I can extend because my stability is coming from my base. So the next one is going to be a little bit similar, the same concept anyways. Our legs are extended, and ideally your fingers are pointing towards your toes, but you can move your hands however you need to. Bring your hands into fists if you need to. This can be pretty taxing on the wrists. So just give yourself permission to grow into this and find your own way. This is true with every posture. So what we're going to do is we're going to move again with breath of fire from one posture to the next. This is our starting point. And then we're going to go into back platform. So we're going to go into back platform and come into a seated position. So basically back platform, ideally, you're not letting your head collapse back. You're keeping the chin at a right angle so that you can keep the body in one line from the toes to the top of the head. Now that requires a lot of navel power, so just be gentle and just really sense into where is your starting point and move from that place, protecting your lower back by engaging your, there's like a slight moban, a root lock that you can do to engage the navel and keep your lower back safe. A couple of tips that I have here for you is that once again, you want to think of your grounding that supports you, right? So there is, as I move, in order for you to move up into back platform, I want to invite you to keep your heels together. Your legs really power the movement in my experience. So the heels together, the legs active, and I'm pressing my toes down, then creates a framework from which I can really move into this posture. And then I come back down and land into my sit bones. It's almost like you're developing this capacity to shift from instability to stability, right? Because ultimately that's what we want in our day, is when we get thrown off of our stability, we want to know that we can come back to it. And this Kriya does that for you. So I'm doing breath of fire, and it's very easy for me to kind of like come back this way and kind of get into a groove that way. Again, I really want to invite you to come back and root into your sit bones. So it looks something like this. So again, we're just building a rhythmic movement between one posture and the other. So from now on, all of our postures are going to be standing up. So taking a moment just to slowly rise. And we're going to come to crow squats. So a couple of things about crow squats. First thing, ideally, your feet are hip width apart, toes pointing forward, arms are extended forward. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sinking down, taking the buttock down to the floor, and then rising as you press down through the feet to rise up. So the idea here is that, again, you're taking your buttocks down to the floor so your head stays above, rather than leaning forward and kind of really working this way. Okay, so you're not really leading with the head. You can roll up a mat behind you to give you a little bit more. Sometimes it's difficult for people to go all the way down with their feet flat. If you feel any pain in your knees, you need to shift. And a shift that you can do is just to open up your feet slightly more, and then go ahead and come down like a half, wherever you can go that doesn't cause pain in your knees. So the key here again is that what you want to do is you want to keep your knees at the level of your toes. When they go over, it's going to put taxing experience into the knees that's going to really hurt you, because your knees were not designed to hold weight that way. And again, you want to think of taking your buttocks to the floor as opposed to leading with your head and going down that way. After we do that, we're going to be doing forward bends, which is a similar concept. I'm going to go this way. So once again, your feet are about hip width apart. Your fingers are locked, or you can just do them separate. I like it locked because then I can keep my arms along my ears. So what I'm going to do here is I'm planting myself to the earth. That's what's supporting my movement. And then I'm extending because I'm pressing down through my feet. I'm reaching up to the sky, extending through my fingertips, opening my heart, rather than collapsing back, which will bring my hips forward and I will feel pain in my lower back. So the posture is being supported by itself because I'm extending into it rather than collapsing and getting off my ground and into my back. So I'm inhaling as I'm extending, exhaling as I come down, and pressing down through the feet to lift up with the action of the navel. So again, everything is about rooting to lift, rooting to expand. So I'm inhaling up, extending, feeling myself, and then exhaling down, pressing down through the feet to lift the body up, engaging the navel to rise. And then finally, there's another one that we're going to be doing, which is the same concept, right? I really want you to get a foundation of your foundation so that when you get thrown off course, you can always come back in. So our arms are going to be extended up. Draw the shoulders down, chin at a right angle. You're going to be inhaling at center and then exhaling to the left. And what I want to do is really give you again the extending, right, into the left rather than collapsing into it. So if I collapse to the side and I'm not grounded, my foot will rise off the floor. I will kind of have a twist in my body. And what I really want to invite you into is to feel yourself rooted into the floor and extending into the side, so that it's really the exhale that's extending, but I'm really stable even if I'm off. And I'm lengthening through the fingertips, stretching through the feet, and I feel myself still grounded and I'm still straight to the side. Inhale, center, exhale to the other side. Inhale, let your breaths be complete so that you can really allow yourself to extend into the posture. And then the last physical part of this Kriya is working with Tantric Had. We're going to be using the mantra Had, which is a Sanskrit root sound that is part of Hari or Hara, which is really like the aspect of one of the names of many of the Hindu gods that is related to destroyer or liberation. And it's a manifesting mantra. because it helps you manifest. It helps you break through whatever gets in the way to be able to make things happen for yourself. So the key here, again, it's just all about practicing how to be grounded, right? So I think what I'm going to do is I want to show you just my feet. So my hands are on the hips. And what I'm doing is the idea here is extending the leg with the knee straight as I'm vocalizing HUD out loud with a strong projection from the navel. Now, the thing I want to invite you to explore is that I find that this is, again, it's about generating stability. This is a very odd and unstable posture. And so the reason that it works is because I'm anchoring through the foot that is grounded, and that is allowing the leg to come out. So it's kind of like, it's almost like you're doing this kind of weird march, but you're really anchoring into the foot that's on the ground. So every time my leg extends, I'm doing HUD, 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 HUD. But the emphasis is really kind of finding my rootedness through the foot that is grounded. And the mantra HUD, I'm making the sound by keeping my mouth open and just flicking my tongue to the upper palate so that it generates the sound HUD, 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 and it's really coming from the navel pull. The last piece of this Kriya is the meditation. So the meditation has a lot of aspects to it, and I want to invite you to just walk and slowly build the pieces in. Your mudra, your right palm is over the left, and your thumbs are together, resting on your lap. You're rooted into the sit bones, your chin is in, your drishti, your eye posture, your eyes are closed, gently rolled up and focused at the top of the head. So it's a pretty extensive stretch of the eyes to the top of the head. Now, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be mentally vibrating the mantra Had Had Mukande. Mukande is one of the 8 names of the creative force and it's like that aspect of liberation for the self. So Har Har Mukande in a way is a mantra that helps us break through the barriers or obstacles or challenges that confront us to be able to live our truth. And it's also a mantra that helps you move through fear to really see challenges as opportunities. So it's a very powerful mantra that helps us be connected to the power that supports us to break through any barriers. And we're going to be doing a lot of movements here internally. So for every HUD, you're going to be pulling the navel in. So it's HUD, HUD. And then the second HUD, you pull the navel in, you suspend it, and then you're going to engage the tongue. So the tongue is going to go to the upper palate and press right at the base of the front teeth. This is to connect your microcosmic orbit in your energy body. And the meditation itself is generating a deep sense of groundedness that you've received through the Kriya so that you can then merge into the expansive self without losing yourself. So it's kind of like you are invited, now that you're grounded and rooted, to expand into the ethers and become like, connect with that expansive realm and really go infinite. Yet you have a really strong foundation so that you don't get lost in the infinite. You can still be present in the infinite from this awareness. So a couple of things that I have here to help support you in this. Remember that you breathe through your navel. So you are not needing to breathe. Your movement of the navel is generating breath for you. So when I'm just going to hold my hand to my navel to give you a sense of that. So when I'm mentally vibrating HUD, I'm pulling my navel in and releasing it quickly. So it's like a pull. I'm exaggerating for you. You don't have to do it this big, but I just want you to notice what happens with my navel. So I'm HUD, HUD. The second one, I'm pulling the navel in and keeping it there. So I'm pausing my breath to press my tongue into the roof of my mouth, right at the base of my front teeth. And then I'm mentally vibrating mukande. So my navel is in, my tongue is pressed, and I'm thinking mentally vibrating mukande. And then after mukande, I release my tongue, I release my navel, and breath comes in so that I can be ready for the next one. So it's mentally HUD, HUD, suspend and press the tongue. That's mukande. And then I relax. The breath comes in and I begin again. HUD, HUD, mukande. 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 Okay, so that might take you a little bit of practice. Remember, you're keeping your drishti and eye posture. Your eye posture is up at the very top of the head. So eventually, as you bring all these pieces together, you can get really lost in the current of the rhythm of the meditation. And all of this is going to be happening supported by music, so you don't have to worry about it because it'll take you through it. I hope this is a helpful starting point for you to really bring kind of awareness to pieces that I have found particularly helpful and supportive in my practice, as well as in particular in this Kriya. Okay, see you in the actual practice. Sat Nam.